On today's episode, we have Paddy back on to chat to us, along with Josh, about the upcoming Cancon tournament, plus our usual old world rules and lore chats, and our hobby progress. Enjoy. Welcome to the Old World Fanatics again, your Warhammer Fantasy podcast to quench your hobby thirst for all things the Old World. And I'm joined once again by Andrew and Josh. I'm one of your hosts, Gomo. How's everyone today?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Gomo. How you going?
Pretty good, guys. Very excited about this episode coming up.
Yeah, we've got a few things to pack in, haven't we? Yeah. Woke up to some good news too, which we can talk a little bit about as well. Thanks, guys. I guess just catch the listeners up on what we're probably going to do today. We got to we grabbed it Paddy again, Paddy Gallagher, one of the guests that we had on. I can't remember. I should have looked actually. It was episode 3, 4, something like that. She's actually co-TOing with our own Josh here on Cancon in 2024, which is probably going to be one of the biggest 6th edition tournaments in Australia lately, I guess. Well, it will be. But then maybe it's a send-off. Maybe it's not. We don't know yet.
I hope not. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. If it isn't a send-off, it's because the old world hasn't done well.
I'm hoping it's a send-off in a good way.
It might be sent off in a good way. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's frustrating sometimes, isn't it? Where you just have a scene like it's just going from strength to strength almost. You know, it's gone from 50 to, maybe more than that, maybe hopefully 60 this year. But then part of it, I think, is because of the anticipation around the old world, right? That's partly why I think why it's such a strong following.
Well, I think so too, but we never know. Yeah. That's cool. So we're going to do that. We've got a little, we'll do our normal news and hobby time. A little bit of catch up on some thoughts we had. Last episode was hugely successful for us. I think everyone loves chatting about rules, and which is weird, but I guess because it's old world content, like what do we think, what do we not, that sort of stuff. But I think we had some other thoughts around some things we either missed or just different sort of questions that sort of came up from that. And then what we wanted to intro, and we're going to try to do one of these today, which hopefully won't take too long, is like a faction focus sort of over the next, before the old world comes out, maybe every 2 episodes or so, just like pick one of the 9 factions that we know are going to be focused in on with the old world, and just sort of, not so much, it's not an army book review or whatever like we did with the Empire, but just sort of what's this race doing, like what we think it might be doing around that sort of time frame, what the lore is, stuff like that. Anything that, it's going to be different depending on the faction, but there might be some more notable storylines that you should know about or stuff like that, or just questions. So today,
So it's mainly lore based that we'll be doing the faction focus?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what do you think, Andrew? Probably,
Yeah, I reckon just like at that time, what's brought them there, like a quick and dirty what's brought them there, and then like just whenabouts, maybe focusing in on the last few hundred years prior to, so you just got a good understanding of exactly what they're doing when old world pops.
Sounds good.
So we do have one. We do the High Elves today, I believe. Andrew's been, because obviously he's got a High Elf army. He's interested in them, so he's going to run us through that. I had a bit of a look too, because I know nothing about High Elves really, so that'll be good.
That makes 2 of us.
I think we'll still do some actual art. I think we can still squeeze in some army book reviews. It'd be cool to. I would like to do a few before we get to Cancon, because there's some armies I have no idea about. So I'd like in 6th edition, I mean, so it'd be good.
Just to brush up on them.
Brush up
about them.
They're always good.
About them,
And I know I've been, some people have hit us up already on the socials about, jumping on for certain different factions. So, generally if the timetable works for that, we're pretty keen to have people involved. So it's been really good. Anyway, so that's the homework, I guess. Do we want to just kick into some of the news, I guess? So this morning was, usually there's an email coming out, and I wake up at like 5:30 and bang, there's an email. And I totally almost missed this. It was only because I saw it on the Discord group, the Warhammer Fantasy Discord group, if you're not a member of, that actually, it was just basically the Warhammer community sending their weekly email out to say what's happening this week. Well, it's usually what's happening this week from them. Like, they bringing out are they doing something, or is there a new battle report on Warhammer Plus, that sort of stuff. And at the beginning of at the end of the email was this little tidbit just saying, they've got a new miniature for an upcoming Warhammer 40k Codex to reveal, and our highly anticipated first look into rules from Warhammer the Old World, and plenty more from across the Warhammer spectrum. So that's pretty cool. I mean, because we know there's a reveal show which is happening I can't remember the tournament, but it's this massive Games Workshop run tournament. I think don't quote me, is it in Atlanta? I don't know, I might be wrong. Or did they just have one in Atlanta? It's somewhere else in America. Wherever it is, they're expecting hundreds of players at this tournament for AOS and 40K, and that's where they're going to do another reveal show, which is happening not this weekend, but next, I think it is. So I'm assuming that's when we'll get the Tomb King reveal, miniatures, equivalent of what we saw with Brett's, but I've no idea. But like I've always said, I just don't think we would get rule reviews reveals in those things. So I'm pretty keen with what they've said here that we might actually be getting one this week. I mean, is this how you read that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, hopefully shortly.
Yeah.
Weirdly that they say it's a first look into rules.
It's second, isn't it? Sort of, unless they're going to be more detailed.
Second. Either that, or they've just thrown that article out the window and they've gone with something completely different.
Oh no, yeah, who knows? Maybe.
I'll be hoping it's something more detailed. Like, yeah, that's what I'm getting out of it.
Yeah, hopefully.
I mean, you never know. It might even be, like some of the Horus Heresy and actually what's the Epic one, the new one coming out with Epic. They actually you can tell some of the clips they're showing are out of the rule book, like the little sort of rule, how the data slates are done or something like that. So it'd be interesting if you see some of that. So just not a screenshot of a page, but the design of what the rules might look like, which would be pretty cool. But anyway, yeah, just thought that's worth talking about. So if you haven't seen that, read the latest. I guess it's probably one of the latest articles on warhammercommunity.com. So that's cool. So hopefully we will be talking about more stuff next Monday on actual specifics. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
But hopefully in a good way.
Yeah. I've only got one other bit of news, and that was I was messaging you guys on the weekend when I saw the pre-order for Fulgrim go up.
Gosh.
The price of that in Australia. Wow, because if that's it's a big resin hero, obviously. But $400 Australian. Woo.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Eye-watering.
Because I mean, it looks like, I don't play those games, but it looks like an awesome figure, and you're like, yeah, you got to have that for your army, and then you're like, oh god, if they start doing that which we expect they probably will in some things, but I guess we haven't seen any massive resin kits for the old world. It's been fairly small characters, except for the horse and stuff, but it's really big.
Yeah. Well, you can see like Bellicor and whatnot. I mean, they're pushing $200 for those bigger sort of models.
Yeah.
Like the bigger graded demons are sort of around those. Yeah. So maybe it's just the resins sort of,
It's just the sort of almost not made to order, but almost made to order.
It's got that Forge World resin tax sort of thing. Some of these just get a bit astronomical.
Anyway, well, I guess like I said, just starting to get used to it. Just prepare yourselves, I guess.
Prepare your wives. That's what you got to prepare. But honey, I need this.
Cool. Anyway, that's other. I don't think there's much more news on the. I haven't heard any other rumors and stuff, so I guess we'll just wait and see. I guess see what happens this week. Did you guys get up to any hobby?
Yeah, fair bit. I mean, I'm always usually up to something.
Did you finish the hills? Did you flock them?
Almost. Yeah, I did the static grass. I did the flocking, bit of extra course flock as well. I haven't put any photos up, but I'll probably put them up on the Facebook next couple of days. So yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with how they look. I probably just need to pop on a few more. I'm just going to think if I want to fit a little animal in there somewhere or something. I've got a crevice that I might be able to fit a fox or something in one of the bushes. I can show you the photo. So I might try and do that at some point, maybe tomorrow. So yeah, no, I've grassed them up, so they're actually quite playable now. I'm pretty happy with how they look. And what else was I doing? I've been painting my Devoted for the slow grow.
Nice.
They're taking ages actually. They're just sort of those 6th edition Witch Elves. I don't know. There's lots of little elements to them. They're taking me a while, but I'm almost getting through it now. And so that'll be good because if the slow grows, gee.
It's only a couple of weeks too, is it?
Just only 2 weeks away? Yeah.
So it's next weekend as well. So basically, that's the Saturday.
It's the 12th, so the following Sunday.
Sunday. Okay.
Yeah. That's when we'll be running
that crept up that time. I'm like,
I
so
know.
far behind.
I know.
Yeah.
I did not. I'm like, I mean, this stuff is. I thought I'd be able to bash this out in a week or two.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I better make sure I get this done before the day.
You're kind of in charge of it. You're just like, oh no, too much pressure.
That's right. What else have I been doing? And I've just been printing off a couple of things. So one of them was I found some. So like a Slannesh sort of iconography for a standard bearer that I'm going to print. Well, I have printed off. I'm going to use it for the Devoted standard bearer rather than because the 6th edition Witch Elves have like this cane icon on the standard bearer. So I sort of like that doesn't fit the theme at all.
Right.
Lost Kingdom Miniatures the other month actually did like a really Slanneshy little Patreon month release that had like a bunch of different armored girls and that kind of thing that would actually work pretty well as the anointed main hero as well, I think, in that army. But they actually had a standard bearer and also a sorceress staff that I think actually would look quite good actually on the sorceress as well. So I've been printing those off. I've had to reprint a couple of times. One because I got a bit of a fail on one of the prints where I hadn't supported a little part of the Slannesh icon properly, and then I think I didn't quite get the scar right, so I've had to reprint it a few times to get it to the not too big, not too small.
Because I was going to ask you that because you don't have only if you have the other if you had the figure you're putting it on 3D, like in your program, you could work it out. But if you're putting it on an existing figure, it's a bit hard.
It is a bit hard. I must admit, even if you do have a figure in the slicer with the item, for some reason, Colin, I don't know why, but for some reason, you still can't quite get it right until you printed them off and have them physically out, and then you can properly do it. I don't know why the slice. It's just. I think it's just because everything's in a 2D, like from your perspective.
Yeah, you're not actually holding it.
You're not holding it, so you can get it close, but sometimes you just print off and you're still like, this is still just a bit too small. So it takes a couple of goes sometimes.
It makes me wonder. I've never even like. Do you because you obviously subscribe to a lot of these patrons. Is this like if I said like, my orcs are a good example where like I had a lot of old banners, which they're not even really banners. It's like I'd like to get ones that had a lot more. I don't know, I'm a lazy painter, so I want like actual, embossed Gork symbols and stuff, so I can just like paint them. Are they easily found? What do you just go on 3D Mini, whatever it's called, and just look for orc banners? Is that, or do you generally find them in collections? I probably would try that.
Like
releases.
There's different sites around. Some like Yegi is like a accumulator of different sites where you can search like almost like a Google type thing. Or sometimes you just search Google and put in Google like orc banner STL and then just look at the images and see what pops up. Cool. Or My Mini Factory or Cult 3D.
Yes, that's it. My Mini Factory. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
But a lot of the banners aren't necessarily got embossment on them. I don't know. It depends on the designer. A lot of them will keep it
plain, which is fair enough. Like, but I'm just getting lazy.
But then
you're just rather.
I think it's partly
I love
because
the embossed as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because people out there can actually, they like the plain banner because then they can do their own embossment. I haven't worked out how to do that myself.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's
you actually do it in the
actual program.
Put it on,
right
in the STL and just make your own sort of pattern.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't really done it. And I was printing off your obelisks.
Yeah, actually, I did. You put a picture of that somewhere. Where was that?
Yeah,
look
maybe
cool.
that was in our messenger group.
Yeah, I didn't put it up.
Yeah, no, it was.
Socials.
No, they look awesome.
Cool. No, thanks for
Just
that.
the obelisk from the Highland miniatures from the Tomb Kings stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are they hollow or like do you keep them hollow? So
Yeah, they are hollow.
Yeah, because
otherwise it would have been a lot of resin.
Yeah, that's right. Then it doesn't work. Cool. Awesome.
The only thing with hollow is you got to make sure it's flushed, like because the resin when you print it, you've got to clean it in alcohol.
Yeah. So you got to be able to get stuff.
You
got to
make sure. You got to make sure the hollowed part
otherwise just falls apart
properly.
Eventually.
Otherwise, if you have uncured resin sitting in there, it sort of leaches out the bottom after a few months, and it's just not a good situation.
Yeah.
Cool. No, thanks for that one. I'll get them all. I'll play around with them. That sounds cool.
I've been doing absolutely nothing this week. I've been doing boat buying and boat buying related activities.
Cool. Is this to go with the fishing?
This is to go with the fishing. So that has had me driving down to Sydney, South Sydney. And
such a long way.
I'll be driving down there again this week to pick it up. It's like a 7-hour round trip, and I'm just like, ugh. So yeah.
Is this a big boat or a little boat?
It's pretty little in the scheme of boats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's bigger than what I've got, which is quite pretty much. Yeah, it's a bit of a kayak sort of,
yeah. That's what my old co-founder of my old startup, he's a massive fish. He lives up Corlett, so he was always out fishing. He still does. He's always out fishing.
Yeah.
It's a good spot.
When I look at the $400 Fulgrim, my main justification for being like, I can spend this sort of money on a hobby is that I ain't buying boats.
Yeah.
So how do you justify it? How do you get away with buying boats and Warhammer?
There was stern words. Trust me, there was some stern words coming my way. Yeah. So yeah, the hobby comes into contention around my house quite a bit about the excessive, and I've moved it out of sight, so I was hoping it's going to be out of mind, but it still comes up. So yeah, we won't go into that one.
Maybe if you just get me to print stuff off for you, you'll be like, oh no, just my mate printed it. It didn't cost me a dime.
It didn't cost me anything.
It was so funny though. Like I was like, because I mean, it's probably not that big an issue with me anymore. But when it was in the early days when you obviously your kids are young and you obviously don't have as much money and stuff. But yeah, it was funny with the those ones that the great swords I printed out, and I was like, and then that dragon, I'm like, I haven't actually paid for any of this except like postage and stuff. Legitimately, I'm not lying. Yeah. So anyway,
that's gold.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I haven't. I was actually up. I was up your way, Andrew. Sort of went past. You're at Fernbay, aren't you? I went past there the other day. Yeah, I was up at Salamander for the weekend.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually get much hobby on the weekend, but I'm just trying to get through my usual stuff, which is just finishing. I'm trying to be. I know I went crazy the other week with 4 things on the painting table, but there's only 2, so I'm trying to just go through it. But just these bloody sepulchre stalkers or whatever they're called, just to get them done for Old World, and then I will start. I'm going to do that this week. I don't know if I'll get it done for the slow grow, but I'm going to just highlight the archers and dryads for that slow grow list just to start painting. I got all the bases in because I had to get. I bought some resin forest bases ages ago, but I didn't have like 25s. So I bought some of them for the dryads and stuff like that, and for the dragon. Bought a bigger one for the dragon just so I can start doing that.
Yeah, they look pretty cool. Some of those resin bases.
Yeah, the only problem, some of them are a bit too, like the forest ones are okay, but there's too much stuff on them. So I don't think I'm going to be able to use them.
When you put them all together,
yeah. So I'm going to have to like use some and then leave just normal ones for others. And otherwise they're all going to look like they're standing on tree stumps, which won't look too good.
which forest bases are these?
The ones from Back to Basics.
Oh, those ones. Yeah, I have those ones. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Some of them are very tree stumpy.
Yeah, so I'll use them for, and maybe I'll just keep some of the bigger ones like that for unit fillers and stuff like that. So see how we go. Yeah. But I am still just I know this is not Warhammer related, but fantasy related, but I am doing the Orc Boys up as well because I'm doing mostly contrast. So I feel like I'd like to just get a routine down and then I can just smash out this Orc 40k army over the next 6 months or so as well. But yeah, it's annoying. It's sort of like what you went with your Slannesh. It's like you want to try and it's not so much I care about the color scheme either. To me, it's just what I want to paint. Like, what's the process? Like what's the skin? Which leathers am I using? And then obviously with the orcs, like what sort of other color? Like I've gone goth, so I am going to go goth, I think. So I am going to put some checker patterns on there, but then you still need something like a red or a yellow because there's always a cloth or a banner thing they're holding. So I'm like, do I want to, otherwise they just ends up look too black. So
yeah.
So I'm just playing around with that at the moment, see which contrasts look better and then go with that.
Do you find it's hard sometimes with the contrasts working out what the color's going to be before you put it on the model?
Well, basically that's the thing. Yeah. So I've got like 3 different reds on 3 different, like these boys are going to look like crap, like at the end of the day, because they're all going to be slightly different. Even the skin color is going to be a bit different because I've been trying different stuff, but getting there. But I mean, I'm not really prioritizing them compared to fantasy.
So it almost feels like you got to experiment more with the contrast paints to get the right tone because you got to wait for it to dry and that kind of thing, and it's a whole lot more process. Whereas when you
just paint,
if you just paint it, you know what the color's going to be before you put it on the model.
It is a bit like that, And I guess I wanted to bring that up with you guys. There was like the priming these archers. I feel like. To me, it depends on how you do the zenithal. Like that's if you're doing this slap chop stuff. Like that makes a difference too. And I feel like that also can be a bit of difference from just doing the standard grey. I'm thinking with these wood elves of doing what I did with this dragon, where I sort of went that sort of not bone coloured, but it's a lighter brown, but then with like my dry brushed yellow over it, and then put the contrast on it.
Oh yeah, right.
So it was. Not so, I don't know. It just adds that because I think that goes well with greens and stuff. So yeah. But anyway, we'll keep that. Even on the dryads, I think it might come out okay when you put brown because yellow sits alongside brown quite fine as a highlight.
Yeah, it does. And they give a nice warm tone. Like it depends what the color, what sort of color you're aiming for when you finish, but
so I'm going to try that and see how they turn out, but I'm assuming those dryads would contrast pretty well.
Still going that autumny.
Well, no, I'm going to go. So I'm going end of summer.
Okay.
So yes, I'll have like flickerings of yellows or like reds, but not as much.
Not quite.
So it'll be mostly green, but then on the cloaks and stuff, I want to try use an orange, like so mostly green and browns, but with some type of one thing that's orange, whether or not it's an under part of their cloak or something, and then that'll tie into a little bit of autumn starting to come, but not full autumn. Yeah, that's what I'm going to try. But who knows? Anyway, and then I was going to use that orange as sort of that, the faces of the dryads or something to sort of be that. And then I was, those what are they called, the sprites or whatever on that dragon?
Yeah.
Did you say sprites?
Yeah.
They are.
Or spites.
Spites. That's it. I'll probably do them like orange,
lizardy,
like glowingy orangey rather than the blue, and try and match them. So
we can mix them up in different colors.
Yeah. Cool. Anyway, that's the hobby stuff. So we should get on to the main topic. Do you guys want to? You've finished. You guys are all done with your hobby. Yeah.
Done for this week.
Yeah.
Always more to come.
Okay, let's go chat to Paddy, and we'll talk to you guys on the other side.
Yep.
Welcome back, everyone. We've got Paddy on our podcast again. Thanks for coming, Paddy. I think everyone probably knows you, but we've got Paddy on and Josh, I guess, to talk about Cancon because you guys are both running Cancon this year.
Yep.
Hello, Yep. Oh, great to be back. Great to be back.
We're a little bit disjointed at the moment. Sorry, everyone who's listening, because Andrew's supposed to be here too, but he's running a little late. He had to drop out just when this interview kicked on. So I'm assuming he will pop it back in again soon. So hopefully he can get on a moving train. But look, we wanted to have you on, Paddy, because obviously you and Josh are running Cancon. I'm being a little minion to help whatever I can for you guys. But we just thought it'd be cool to, I guess, have a chat about where it's up to and, sort of before we started recording that maybe this is a a hooray to sort of goodbye to maybe some of these legacy versions of Warhammer. Hopefully, if the old world's out or very close by then, given that this is January.
Yeah,
it's yeah. I mean, the books will always be there. The rules will always be there. So we have to go back to them.
That's right.
I mean, new editions haven't stopped people coming back to Sick. But it will be really interesting to see what the state of everything is.
Yeah, it's a real flux, a time of flux at the moment. We don't know, but
yeah.
But no, look, really appreciate you coming on, and also, here comes Andrew now, and also helping run the tournament. So, hey, Andrew, how you going, mate? We just kicked it off with Paddy, so I just said that you might have just been a bit late jumping on the interview, but here he is, the man. The man of the hour.
Trying to look after kids.
Nah, all good. No, don't worry. Well, we haven't really started at all. I just sort of said hi to Paddy. I am going to kick off because I'm going to kick off the quiz again, like I did last week. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT for another lore-focused question around Warhammer Fantasy, and because we've got Paddy, I'm sure she'll be able to answer it or help us. Let's see what it says. Hang on, it's coming up. It is. Hang on, sorry. God,
I'm never going to get these. I have terrible lore knowledge. I feel like last week I was lost.
I'm having issues with ChatGPT at the moment. It's arguing after me. Now, here it comes. Here it comes. Oh, God, I swear that we did this last week. The war, it's actually maybe related to some other stuff we'll chat on the podcast about, but the War of the Beard is a monumental conflict in Warhammer Fantasy's history that occurred between two major factions. Name these factions and describe the inciting incident that sparked this war. It's a pretty easy one.
Oh, yeah.
Who's going to answer that one?
Well, I think everyone knows what the War of the Beard is. I mean, I can't remember the actual names of the guys involved because they're bloody elves and dwarves. But wasn't it? It was all incited by Malekith, wasn't it? He shaved the High King's son.
We talked about this last week. Can't remember his name. Who was it? Andrew, you knew who it was, wasn't it?
Oh, I shouldn't answer this because I'm actually looking at it right now.
Okay, right.
Because I'm going through the lore for the
High Elves.
Yeah. So it's in my notes.
Oh, right. Okay, well, that's cheating, but that's okay.
Just been researching it. Funny.
Yeah, but basically a big shit fight between bloody elves and dwarves as usual, hey?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. We don't need to. Yeah, well, it's actually very topical because we are probably going to be covering some high elf stuff. So, very topical, as Andrew just sort of alluded to. Now, cool. Let's get on to the core topic here. Let's have a little bit of fun here. I was hoping ChatGPT can be a bit more tricky with some of its questions, but
I've got a trivia question if you want.
I'll go for it.
Okay, there is a Goblin Big Boss name dropped in the Orc and Goblins army book, I think maybe only 8, by the name of Snorko the Sneak, who slew a high elf dragon with what weapon?
I should know this being an Orc and Goblin player. I have no idea.
What weapon?
Is it one of the weapons in 8th edition book, or is it just... Is that a hint?
Nope.
Would it be an unconventional weapon? Would that be appropriate?
Absolutely.
Spear.
Slew a dragon.
Any last guesses?
Dragon with a claw. No, I have no idea.
I'm going spear. That's my guess.
He had that classic pointy metal goblin hat. And when the dragon inhaled to breathe fire, he got sucked in, lodged in the dragon's throat, and was only found after the dragon was being cut up for the celebratory feast afterwards.
So he sort of choked on his helmet.
So not one of the spears from the 4th edition box. Those the sharp ones. Actually, a helmet. Fair enough. Okay.
And then the cherry on top. He did not survive the celebratory beating afterwards.
Oh God, I really do need to read more lore. But anyway, you do. The thing is, you have read this stuff, but then it's been so long. So
there are some nuggets in there, but it's a lot of dates.
It's not always the greatest writing either. But anyway,
yeah.
You could argue that the human question was a lot more interesting than the AI generated question.
Gotcha.
Just
yeah, totally. AI is not there yet, people.
Not there yet as far as it comes for Warhammer.
Cool. Well, let's get on to the. We got Paddy here. Let's get on to Cancon. I sort of was talking about it just before Andrew got on, just obviously what it was. We've got a tournament coming up in January. Do you guys want to just give a bit of a background on how the hell you sort of came to TO this and sort of where it's up to in terms of registration and all that sort of stuff?
I think Gomo had something to do with it, didn't he?
No, it wasn't me. It was Ben and.
That's a little suggestion, little joke that was made.
Well, that pushed me into it. I'm not sure that's why Paddy got involved.
Not Paddy, yeah. But obviously Josh,
I just heard for like the month or whatever beforehand, like that they were looking for someone to run it, and I had such a great time at Cancon last year that I was like, I really want to play, but I also really want to make sure it actually happens.
Yeah,
that's how I felt too. Yeah.
Well, but you've got good responses.
You've done other TOing, and you wanted to do. I felt like that was an interest that you wanted to run anyway. That you seemed to enjoy.
Yeah. I like organizing stuff and making silly scenarios. Having people listen to my every beck and call.
Yep.
And printing stuff out, designing and printing custom model things for the scenarios. Yeah.
The plan is at the moment to, at a minimum, double the number of treasure supply cart models on offer. And hopefully every winner of that scenario will be able to take one of them home.
Cool.
Is that what we're going to do? Yeah. No,
okay, we'll get on that with the scenario. That sounds cool. Let's,
Yeah.
Let's, so where's Cancon up to in terms of, I heard a sneaky thing that it went above its normal 40-person limit.
Yeah. We went, I think we came closer. We hit it. When was that? A few weeks ago now.
Yeah. Well, it's an odd thing of keeping track of it. The guy who does it is on holidays at the moment. But last we checked, we are sitting at a very solid 48 players. Only need a couple more to break 50 of last year.
Yeah, not far. And considering it's only end of October.
Yeah. Got months yet.
I think it's a pretty good trend actually. Yeah.
Have you guys got a cap yourselves? Like you don't want to go over 60, or is there a number?
Well, 60 is the cap at the moment, but that's been imposed by space availabilities. It might get pushed up even further. I think with
would we want to go?
I think with the two of us running it with a minion, I think we could manage. Like, I doubt it's going to get over 100, even like wildest estimation. But I think we could manage it as long as it didn't go like up to like that. We could do 80. We could do whatever.
Could you do? I mean, this is probably. I swear people did this in 8th, where when it was really big. Like I remember some castle assaults. There was certain like you knew other people to go to as well for rules queries, so you didn't always have to harass the TO. Like, is that something that you guys have done or seen before, where you're just sort of, there's a few people that are flagged, everyone knows who they are, they've got a balloon hanging off them, I don't know, just in case, someone needs a help. I mean, is that something that you'd need to do?
Could possibly, like, say, hey, if you really know the rules, here's a red hat you can wear or something, or staple a little flag to their back.
Maybe. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're not going to get many rules queries. Like 6th edition rule set, that's pretty clear and cut, right? Like,
there's
there's not much ambiguity going on there, sure.
Especially in the flea rules.
I guess the limitation. I mean, we could potentially run something that's close to 80, but the terrain might catch us a bit short of that. I think we're pretty comfortable with the amount of terrain we have to do 30 tables.
I think 80's a pretty long shot as well.
Yeah. yeah. I think I can see us feasibly going to maybe mid 60s. I think if we did hit 60, and maybe we could push it up to maybe 64 or something. But
it'll be what
it's one of those things where
I don't think we can be able to go much further.
You could almost like push it, like we were saying, like push it to 64, 66, because you know you're gonna have drops anyway. It'll come back down to 60.
Yeah.
So
that's true. That's true for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, Josh, do you want to lead into well, I guess you're TO, but I mean, do you want to run through the pack and sort of what you guys are expecting?
Well, I'm happy for you to for me to be the interviewee as such.
Okay.
If you like.
Well, I can start with a little bit, probably for Paddy, actually, is obviously you ran Moab, and so you guys have both put this pack together, but I'm feeling like there is some inspirational experience coming from what you just ran at Moab, which was a Sydney 6th edition tournament.
Yeah.
Right?
There's definitely some like bones of Moab that have gone into this player's pack.
Certain big paragraphs of text.
Yeah.
As well.
I mean, there's the joke that no one reads the player's pack, but definitely no one reads the big blocks of text at the beginning of player's pack. They look for the points number and then they go to scenarios.
Yeah.
It's basically just don't be a dick.
So was there anything in those big bits of text, though, that you would want to sort of let people know, or if other people are trying to run a tournament, is there anything in sort of nuggets of wisdom you put in here, apart from the, rules, disputes and sportsmanship, i.e. don't be a dick?
I think it's basically just like laying the fundamentals, especially there's some stuff like there's like that widely accepted house rule for terrain where hills are infinitely high and there's that 2-inch forest thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily core in the book rule. But so we've got to cover our bases by sticking it in here so that if someone is super unfamiliar, they can just see it from here.
Yeah, it makes it pretty clear. And then the other part that we talk about in the long blocks of text is just like army list construction and the type of army list that we're hoping to see, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That we don't want anything like super powerful going on, certain levels of magic or gun lines and that type of thing that are going to affect the enjoyment of the game for your opponent are really the type of thing that we're hoping not to see too much of.
But you're letting everything in now, apart from obviously just the composition. You're pretty much letting everything in, isn't it? In terms of the type.
Pretty much, yeah.
Mostly, yeah.
It's and all that.
Special characters, everything. It's all okay as long as it makes in the context of the list that the special characters in. It's something that still isn't going to.
You can definitely build a fun list with a special character and a broken list with the same special character.
Yeah, exactly. It's a celebration of all things 6. Before the old world hits.
Yeah. where 6th edition players will be hunted for sport.
Cool. So 5 games, 2,000 points. Like I said, everything in there. So the really only terrain thing is the infinite high hills. And what's the building? They're just impassable. But that's it, really, isn't it? You haven't changed anything else.
No.
I mean, there is one big difference from your normal tournaments. It was at Moab. It was at a couple of the last Sydney-based tournaments. The idea of battle points and scenario points combining to give the final point total.
Yeah.
Yep. So do you want to explain that?
Yeah. What I've seen, and your own experience can vary, but if the scenario just gives you 500 points to your final score, it it just results in these huge swingy games. It's so easy to get 20-0.
Yeah.
Because 500 points gives you like +2, +3 points. And there are some lists that will naturally be weaker at certain scenarios and naturally be stronger at others. And basically splitting it up means more interesting end game scenarios can happen. You can be losing on points, losing on killing your opponent's guys, but have a list that can better play the scenario. I remember in one of the earlier events, I think this was last ShireCon, I played a big Killy Ogre force versus Skaven list with like 5 of those little rat swarm units. The giant rat unit. And I could just plow through the army, but the scenario was get to the opponent's deployment zone with as many units as possible. And he steamrolled me on the scenario point.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a tie game.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, the scenario points and the scenario conditions change with each of the scenarios, of course. So there's different stuff to focus on in each game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does make it interesting because when myself and Gomo played that game, we got a 13-13 tie. It definitely, it was it was pretty cool with those little, like, it does swing the game quite a bit, and it does make it quite, interesting because you're not just trying to kill each other, you are trying to go for those little objectives. It just, it was definitely a bit of flair.
You can you both can get some of them as well. It's like, it's not like there's only 5 up for grabs by the look of it. I mean, some of them are like that,
some
like
of
you
them
get 1 point for killing their general, obviously. Their
some of
general
them,
can't kill yours. Oh, actually, what happens when a Tomb King is in a challenge and gets killed by the enemy general, but then his curse kills the person? Does they both get?
Yeah, that counts as a
point?
general killing a general.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
It also means it's very, very hard to get a 25-0 or to get even 25 points on your own. With these big tournaments, like, it seems like a fair chunk of players get like a 20-0 on their first game. And suddenly it's like, okay, these guys are in the running to do well, and everyone else is playing for fun now.
Yeah.
And it all evens it out a bit more. Like, you can really spike a scenario well and go. The player who ended up winning Moab had like one game where they absolutely dominated, but the rest of them were like low team scores.
Yeah, well, we talked to Kieran the other day about that. He didn't realize he was even in the running initially because he didn't have very big wins. Yeah, it's crazy. No, it's cool. Okay, yeah. Actually, the other cool thing I'd like that you guys added is, and we talked about this with Ben and Julian, was the halfway hero award, because you've got painting in here, you've got winning, you've got wooden spoon. But yeah, I like this idea that if you get right in the middle, you also get something. I reckon that's pretty cool for people who are trying.
Yeah.
So I like that. Yeah, cool. Did you want to just run through? Was there anything else? Do you want to run through sort of like the scenario breakdowns, like and how, especially how these 5 battle points, whatever you want to call them, are up for grabs?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's funny that because the first scenario is actually the one you guys played.
Yes.
Did you guys do the challenge one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Which, as a quick rundown, is regular pitch battle deployment, 12 inches from each end. The only main special rule is that you can't refuse challenges in this scenario, and then it's, in order to get the bonus points, you got to win the challenges and slay the enemy general. And in the game, if you've won 1 or 2 challenges, you get a bonus point. If you won 3 or more challenges, you get 2 bonus points instead. And if you've won more challenges than your opponent has won, you also get an additional bonus point for that. And then in terms of the general, you get 1 bonus point for killing the general. And then if the general is slain by your general, you score an additional bonus point for that too. Or was that during a challenge as well?
Or during a challenge. Yeah. And you don't get the 100 victory points for the general normally. So the whole general thing is just down to this.
It's just the bonus point.
I like that.
That's right.
That's good.
Yeah.
Apart from that, straight up battle line type sort of deployment. And cool.
Nice, easy one.
Yeah, good one to start.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
Pretty much across all of these scenarios, we wanted to focus on one thing, and we ended up with characters, and by proxy unit champions as well. We want to incentivize people having these things that can have these challenges. So one side doesn't have like all these kitted out challenge characters ready to go, and the other side just has no unit champions, nothing that can accept a challenge. So you'll find that unit champions and other characters are very useful for a lot of these scenarios.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I like it. Well, Paddy, do you want to run us through game 2, Reclaim Your Lands?
Yeah. So this might look pretty familiar if you are an 8th player. It is very similar to the Dawn Attack, I believe, deployment.
Except for
pretty much
the flanks, which are like slightly further forward. This is kind of different.
Yeah. Flanks get a little
because in
extra
8th
buffer.
it was just split down. It was the same distance forward. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was 12 across the whole way.
Yeah.
Whereas
But
now
you just
actually
had
brought the
that
flanks
18
forward,
inch.
which
cool.
will be interesting to see how it plays. We haven't play tested
You've got you've got some potential advantage having like a strong unit in the flank that can get stuck in earlier. Another key difference is that you alternate deploying a unit rather than one side deploying their entire army and the other side then deploying their entire army, which is thing in 8.
Yep.
Was it?
And
Can't remember. Yeah, cool. So you just
and then then at the end it's table quarters, which I like doing table quarter capture ones where you've got these funky deployment zones. It means you're starting off in odd positions compared to a normal battle line.
And sorry, can I just jump back? So characters deployed last can be placed in any legal unit or anywhere in your deployment zone. So you don't roll for your characters. Yeah.
No, and that's to stop like, my wizard has been banished to the right flank and will not be joining us.
That's what happened in 8th, wasn't it? Like you did roll characters, yeah. So this is I hated this for like Tomb Kings.
Oh, what? Oh, I actually didn't realise that.
The worst one was Vampire Counts, where your March bubble could just be completely random. So no. You might not like what unit your character ends up having to deploy in to be in a good position, but you've got some choice. You can deploy him in the good unit in a bad position or the bad unit in a good position, or have him on foot and he can run around and do what he wants. We'll pick what unit he joins after that.
Okay, that's cool. I like that. Balances a little bit more. Yep.
Yeah. And it's all ranges for spells and auras and all of that stuff.
Yeah. And so how does the character I'm just reading as I go. It's the character and unit champion closest to the center of the quarter. So it's not really the unit, is that right?
No, well the unit is it's a tiebreaker. So if you both have a unit in the quarter, then it's whatever champion or character is closest to the center of the quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. Break their will, Josh. Game 3. So this is you're exhausted after 2 games. Is this one complicated?
not that complicated. It's
for those of you who have played a lot of 8th edition, this may seem pretty familiar to you.
That's right. A few of these are. I think it's mainly the second one and the third one that are derived a little bit from 8th. But the third one, definitely, it's a bit of a Blood and Glory take, where we've sort of gone, we've taken the Blood and Glory, but we haven't like instituted the game ends if the enemy gets broken type thing. It's more that breaking gives you a certain number of bonus points, and more points if you do it earlier. Like we've given 3 points for doing it before turn 3, so during or before turn 1. Turn 1 or 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
3.
That's a lot of numbers. Whereas in between turn 3 or 4, it's 2 bonus points, and 5 or 6 is 1, and you get an extra 2 points if your army has not been broken by the end of the game.
Right.
It certainly incentivizes, fairly aggressive play and targeting the generals or the opponent's characters. But it's not like the game's over, and it's because sometimes that skews it a bit anyway. Like sometimes I remember in 8th, you could be in happen to be in a losing position in terms of victory points, and then you would break your opponent's army somehow because they only had like 4 or 5 points.
One lucky round.
And then suddenly it would actually be, you'd be in this weird section thing where it's like, oh, I won, but I lost on victory points. Like how does this work? The other little rule we've added though with this one is that after you've finished deployment, each player can select an enemy character or unit champion to be the key target as such, and they're actually worth double in terms of fortitude loss.
Wow, because the other point is the general and the BSB both count as 2 characters, so you're incentivizing bringing the BSB, which is I feel is sometimes not always taken as a 6th edition thing. So you're incentivizing bringing both those guys because they counts as 2, but they're actually counting as 4 for this scenario.
If they're selected,
as that target,
you wanna keep them protected or just kid them out, able to take a fight like a Bretonnian Paladin, BSB or whatever.
Yeah. Or in the case of certain characters that are both generals and BSBs, they may be worth 8 points.
Yes.
Which we worked out just the other day with, I think it was a Grom.
Was it?
Yes,
Grom.
Well, actually, Grom and Niblet count as different characters.
Oh, funny. Okay.
So you'll only get 6 points if you select them as the key target, which is still game losing, but
indeed. Indeed.
Cool.
Well, I mean, if you lose Grom, if you've got a list that's based around Grom and you lose him,
you're having a hard time.
You're in trouble.
You're in trouble already.
But you got to respect the Grom pick.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't. Oh, sorry.
I guess it also you got the. I was just thinking about other characters that might have a BSB effect, like Slann. I think can also.
Yeah, that'd be one.
Is that right?
Yeah, well, High Elves are the same. You can end up with your
true, because
your BSB.
That intrigue of court rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hate that. It is the worst rule. Yeah, because you roll off your general. You don't even know who your general is.
I love seeing High Elf players complain about that rule. I grew up fighting High Elves in 8th edition. I've got no mercy for these damn High Elf players.
Hey.
I like.
How good would it be if they brought it back for the old world?
I actually genuinely really like the idea of fluffy, kind of bad army rules like animosity, and Skaven running faster and dwarves running slower, and those kinds of things where it doesn't make a huge amount of difference, but it just gives the army that kind of flavor. As long as it's not super annoying, I'm all for that actually.
Yeah, no. Otherwise, you end up with 9th age. So, well, that was a bit of a dig. Sorry.
Hello.
Cool. Game 4. Oh, sorry.
But yeah, sorry, just before we move on, because I don't know how much like 8th edition you all have played, but it is a terrible thing when you have a breaking point and you just get like a really unlucky first turn. Your Lord unit, your big Death Star flees off the board, and the game is just like over in 20 minutes, especially at like a tournament, and that's just something we want to completely
But in a
avoid
way
any
that still
possibility
rewards, having a good number of fortitude points in the army and constructing an army around that for sure.
Well, it's going to be tough. Okay, cool. It's definitely changing I had a list for Tomb Kings that I was just going to go, I'll just take that. But now these scenarios, you go, I'm going to have to change something. Damn. But anyway.
That's the goal.
Yeah, that's right.
You've got to think
You're
about
going to make me paint, So game 4, steal their supplies. I'm not sure who wants to run through that. Was that you, Paddy?
Yeah, Paddy can do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll take this. So this scenario is my child that I've grown.
Definitely. This is similar to Moab, isn't it?
So
this one?
Pretty much. Yes. It is essentially lifted verbatim from the pages of Moab. I think it was a very fun scenario there, and as we mentioned before, it meant a lot of people got to leave with a little model that they can use as
unit filler.
A unit space. That's not the right word. That's the one. A unit filler, or just a little.
Or continue on with the sweet scenario that you've created.
And just play it,
and play that scenario, yeah. Spread the love.
Or play 3rd edition. Warhammer, baggage trains, I think.
Don't do that. So pretty much, it's the most text-heavy scenario, but there are 2 objectives. One of them is a big, like, cache of supplies. One of them is a cart loaded with supplies. First one doesn't move. The second one does. So the static objective is pretty much exactly what you'd expect from a scenario capture the objective. The unit at the end of the game that is on it captures it. And it's broken by a number of characters and unit strength. The cart is where it gets interesting. At the beginning of your opponent's turn, you get to move the cart to annoy them, get it out of their charge range, get it out of charge arc, move it away from them, and then they get to do the same for you at the beginning of your turn. And pretty much you want to charge this cart. And
you can see this as some like random NPC driving the cart. Is that what you're thinking it is? Yeah.
Yeah. In Moab, it was like a treasure hunter, like some random. I was thinking like Indiana Jones-esque character who hasn't got an army behind him, but like he's like beginning of Raiders running from that like army that's behind him, chasing him.
Right, so you charge it, and that means you've got it?
Yep. You charge it, and then you stick it behind the unit like a captured banner. And then if you kill the unit that has the cart, it drops it, and anyone can come and pick it up. Or if you break it, you steal it.
And flyers can't grab it, can they? Oh, they can.
Flyers can grab it, but then they're only using walking speed afterwards. And fast cavalry is not fast while it's dragging this big heavy supply cart. There's a lot of little rules like that. It blocks line of sight, which is interesting. You can use it to like hide one of your units.
I mean, the flying thing makes sort of sense to me if you think about like a unit of harpies trying to take off with this cart.
Yeah.
They're like, no, they can't fly. They got to wheel it.
It's too big.
They're 5 inches or whatever they do. And then it doesn't do the alternating move anymore after it's been captured either. So if a unit drops it, it just sort of sits there. It's not moving anymore.
Yeah,
okay. He's dead.
Indiana Jones is dead
so
or
after
fled
the
at
first
this
time it's
point.
been captured, then it's okay.
It's just like
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of little bits with it. If you read any scenario, read this one. And then at the end, if you've got both objectives, you get a lot of points. If you've got one of the objectives, you get half the points.
It's probably the one that takes the most reading, I guess. You're right. And it's probably Game 4 is probably a good time to do it when people have had a day of playing and they're sort of set. It's not the last day. It's not the last game of the whole thing. It's Game 4.
They've worked their army list out by now, and they sort of can just concentrate on how to move this bloody wagon. What do I have to do?
Well, it's first game of the day, Game 2, so you have a bit of time to get your head around it. You know.
And we've got time to set up the actual models before the game starts.
Oh, cool. It's going to be exciting to try that one. And then we finish it off, Game 5.
Yeah, Game 5. A lot to talk about with Game 5. Battle line, pitch battle, and then it's pretty much all your extra 100 victory points are taken out, and they're just awarded as bonus points instead.
Right. Okay.
So nice and simple for the last game. Really, that's all there is.
Yeah.
You do get just a little fluffy thing at the end. One of the objective points, because there's table quarters, killing general, having more banners captured, and winning more challenges. But the last one is if your opponent was a good sport. Mark on your sheet and you get additional point.
It'd be funny to see if you get zeros on that one.
You've got that little benevolent thing you can give to them.
Yeah.
You don't have to, but you may. You may bestow it upon your opponent if you so choose.
Yeah. I can imagine some people really keeping track of the standings and calculating in their head. My one sportsmanship point here will decide who wins the.
Oh, imagine if it came down to something like that, and one of the top tables, and it's I'm not going to give you that extra point.
Well, if you're playing against the Skaven player's got to not award it for sure. They've got to go, nah, I'm going to stab you in the back. You're not getting it.
Yeah, unless we had some kind of secret sub rule where we're this is actually a trap, and if you don't give that point, you lose a point.
minus 10 battle points.
Minus
the
10.
hidden rule.
We never know. Yep.
Cool.
And,
okay.
Yeah, and then that'll be the event. I think we hand out some prizes, as we said before, the various prizes, and hopefully people will help us pack up a bit, and then
that's always the thing, right? You hand out the prizes after you've gotten everyone to help you pack up.
Yeah. That should be good. That's I just like the different the fact that it's forcing you to obviously all the scenarios try to do that, tournaments try to make your list a bit varying, but it's I don't know, this one's just a bit different to what I've seen for castle assault and stuff, so it's gonna be good.
We put a fair bit of thought into it. We're hoping that it would provoke some interesting list choices.
I reckon it's great.
And none of the scenarios are too out there. It's all normal stuff. Do challenges, capture table quarters, whatever. Moab went a bit harder on those kind of special rules. The challenge one we had was everyone got killing blow in a challenge essentially, even though it didn't end up doing anything. We kind of toned down on that. And we're definitely going to tone down on some of the lists. there were some stinkers of
was there?
lists at Moab.
Wow, okay.
Mainly because it was just me judging them, and I am a terrible judge in that regard.
Look, I'm not sure I'm much better, really. But yeah, I'm sure between the two of us, we'll come to the right decision.
Yeah. We've got the council gathered. We will vote on the list.
Oh, well, it won't be my list, so.
Yeah.
Cool.
At the moment, we haven't had one list, which was, as we referred to earlier, the Grum the Paunch.
Oh, yeah.
And a list centered around him, which was great. Really love it. I hope more lists like that coming in, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That should be good. Are you, Josh, is it worth just mentioning, well, on the third day, you're just doing a quick doubles tournament? I think you said that last week, but I'm not sure now. I can't remember.
Yeah, I talked about it last week. Yeah. It's just 2 games, 1,000 points per player, so 2,000 points per side. And I have done a players pack for it. It finally, I made it a Facebook event and tried to link it, but it took ages for it to be put up onto the actual tournament website. But now it is. So now there's a link there, so people can see the pack.
Oh, I don't know.
Which
I
helps.
should look at that. Oh,
Helps so much.
Missed that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I do have 2 little scenarios there that I've sort of put together. One of them was like one of the early drafts that we were looking at for the main Cancon, which was where we've got a little like a chariot sort of derived a little bit from Midas the Mean sort of stats from the Dogs of War character.
Yeah.
And it's basically like a little chariot that each side has, and the goal is essentially to break through. You've got to push that chariot across the other side. Right. Now, part of the reason why we didn't do it for the big one was because it'd just be too many chariots per table per player. But if we've only got like 4 or 5 tables, then it's feasible to do. So a little princess carriage.
I mean, that's not a bad trivia question. What did Midas the Mean's chariot do? There's a lot of little fiddly things that I doubt anyone really
such a
idea.
Yeah, such a mighty character. Hilarious. Yeah, he did like D3 impact hits. He let things re-roll psychology tests if they're within like 6 inches, guys. It's like,
I mean, that pay chest is a honest to God 8th edition BSB.
Yeah. 6 inches, but yeah, it's a full-on 8th edition.
Yeah, it is. That's pretty good, eh?
Yeah. Now, in that one, I've actually, for both of the scenarios, I've sort of had separate deployment zones. With the breakthrough one, each plays on each half or in a quarter, I guess. With the opponent players on the other board edge or board side, and both of them in their own quarter.
That should be a really interesting game.
Yeah, I think
that really what makes me want to commit to the full 3-day.
Warhammer. So fun, especially for you and me, Paddy, because it'll be like we haven't played any games at all.
That would be fun.
We'll be like, you guys team up.
We'll be raring to go.
Yeah.
The second one, I am so keen to see how it plays, because the second one is set up so it's like you've got your teammate, but it's at the diagonally opposite corner.
Oh.
So you've got 4 players in 4 corners, but your teammates at the far side of the board.
Yeah.
And we've got 5 objectives in the middle, and the bonus points are about claiming one of the each objective point is 1 point, essentially, to a max of 5.
That's chaotic.
It'd just be like chaos, because this is going to be like, which direction do you go? Do you coordinate? Do you each go heading towards one player and trying to get in before the other player can get to you?
You're a bad man, Josh. You're a bad man.
But that's what you'd be thinking, right? But that comes with a huge amount of risk, because then you'd probably miss out on the objectives, and and then the other guys will probably try to do the same thing. I don't know. It'd just be it'd be chaos.
Yeah.
Have you seen much or played any Triumph and Treachery?
I played 2 games of it,
No.
I think. Yeah.
I've never played it.
Daz.
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd
that's
really love
that
to.
8th edition multiplayer. I think it's going to end up something like that, where there's basically 4 battle lines at like the cardinal lines.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like
So,
a
like,
diamond
basically each
shape
person-
almost.
Yeah. But there's a big juicy objective in the middle, so that's going to be interesting. You do actually have to get to the middle of the map.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want dwarves for that, would you? Where you just like takes you the whole game, because then if you got a dwarf player as your teammate, basically, you know you're just going to get crushed by the 2 other armies because the dwarves aren't going to be doing anything.
Well, you could just sit back and try and, I guess, you could gunline. You bring a real gunline 1,000-point dwarf as much as you can.
That's the tactic.
And just shoot.
Have both of you play dwarfs.
Or just the other guys could run around and try and get at your other teammate, and you try and just wipe the other people off shooting because they're not going after you because they're trying to get the objectives.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Who
have
knows?
six turns of uninterrupted gun line shooting, that's you're going to put out some degree of damage.
You haven't seen my gun line shooting. My gun line shooting doesn't do anything.
And that's the thing. When you say gun line, you only got 1,000 points. It's probably not that effective either. But
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway,
It'll be
be
fun to see.
I'm
Fun to see what
pretty
happens.
close to saying I will do it, but let's. I should actually go look at that Facebook event.
I mean, 1,000 points is interesting as well because that's 1 rare choice, no lord.
Yeah, and I've set it up like in the pack. It says, or a couple of things in the pack. One of them is that the army has to be a valid 1,000-point army.
Yeah.
Because I felt like people would be like, oh, if my teammate doesn't have a lord, can I have a lord, that type of thing. But I feel like it was simpler just to have everyone a self-contained 1,000-point army, because if partners need to be like, I don't know, there'll be people entering that don't have a partner. And if people can just slot in with each other, it'll make it easier.
I'm sure people could find the answer to this in the players pack, but how is Magic being split up? Does each player get their own go at it, or are the dice pooled into one?
Good question, Paddy. So it's a pool. So it's 2 power, 2 dispel in total. So like
standard 2,000 points
for a standard 2,000 points. I guess the thing I had to think about a little bit was how things like Tomb Kings and Dwarves work.
Yeah,
because they're non-standard for the army list, and also random things like how does the free wood for wood elves work and that type of thing. But with the dwarves, I felt like essentially, because each army is generating 1 power and 1 dispel dice, I felt like it made sense that dwarves contribute 1 power and 2 dispel dice. Open to feedback in that regard.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then Tomb Kings get their incantations, but they don't actually generate their power dice. So they still get dispel.
They still do get the 2 free power dice for coming.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing though, because if I felt like that, if they generate that, then their partner benefits from that. But it's almost like they then can also do all their incantations,
and you get the
so it almost gets a bit too much, I think.
Because that's a high level Tomb King strat. You've got to remember, you've got those 2 power dice for dispelling remains in place stuff.
I actually didn't realize they did get that, but that makes sense now that you say it.
And if you take like a Truthsayer or whatever, they can still have a full magic phase with their 3 and the 2 starting ones.
Yeah, right. Truthsayer. I was trying to think of other random army special rules. The only other one I can think of would be the blessing, like the Bretonians praying.
Oh yeah.
Is it only or do you go? Yeah, because you want to go pray and go second. Does your other people have to go second?
I felt like the entire alliance would be forced to wait for those ridiculous nights to pray.
Perhaps unwillingly.
It's like watching
Perhaps.
the Maori, the haka when you're playing a game. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to stand here and watch these guys
Come
do their
on,
stuff.
hurry up.
One half of the alliance has their
Yeah.
turn, then the full enemy, and then the Bretonian.
Cool. Oh, that should be good. Yeah, but is there anything else to say about that upcoming tournament there, or is that pretty covered it? And
Well,
just
let's
get everyone signed up.
Yeah, sign-ups are open. You should be able to find all these players packs. I assume they will be linked underneath
Oh, they'll be
this
show
podcast.
notes. Yep, as well. Yep.
But yeah, if you don't know CanCon, it is a great event. There is a hell of a lot to do there beyond just play Warhammer. There's tons of stalls. There's role-playing games you can jump into. There's a ton of great stuff happening. It is on the 26th to the 28th of January next year, down, as the name suggests, in Canberra at the exhibition park. It should be a great time. If you haven't been and you're able to, you should definitely go. It is top notch.
It's incredible. Such a massive convention. People everywhere. Games
Yeah, they
everywhere.
they expect about 10,000,
so
is
cool.
it? Like participants coming through. Like
Yeah, and there's lots of different stuff going on. You know, it's
Yeah.
not like any other wargaming convention that you'd ever go to. You know, there's all these board games, there's cosplay, there's a huge trade, you know, like buying secondhand
swap
stuff.
type thing.
Yeah, buy sell swap, all that type of It's probably one of the
There's a big painting
major
competition.
attractions for some people. Oh, there is.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
it's called
Crimson
what's
Brush.
it called? Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah,
or Crystal Brush. Crimson Brush, is it?
I think so, but one of
Something
them.
like that. Yeah. Cool.
Are you going in cosplay, Josh? You gonna dress up?
That should be a rule for TOs.
Why is it
I
that
reckon-
when
I
people
reckon-
suggest stuff on
I
this
reckon the TOs
podcast,
should
I
be
end up
dressing
doing
up.
it?
Yeah.
Oh.
See, he didn't say no. There we go.
I'll dress up
Yeah,
if you
listeners,
dress
if
up.
you guys can donate and pay for a costume for
Yeah.
Josh, we'll get him.
Yeah, 100%.
He could dress up as a lady of the lake or a Bretonian,
Yeah.
you know, damsel. Surely.
Yeah.
Oh, like,
I mean, a full Bretonian costume with all the colours, and especially if you've got like a half decent set of armor tucked in with it, that's pretty good.
I don't really have that out the back though. I don't have a set of armor.
I'm sure I could sort something.
yeah, thanks, guys.
No worries. Cool.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, I'll we'll let Paddy get back to her night, and thanks so much for jumping on again. It's really good to have you back.
Thank you
on,
for
and-
having me. It's always a great time to just chat about Warhammer. I've got to run some more tournaments so I can get on again.
I'm sure we'll have a recap and there'll be some other stuff going on.
Yeah, well, we're doing. I don't know where this gets spliced into the episode, but we're looking at doing some sort of faction focus type. Sort of before the old world gets here, to go through every faction, what they might be doing. So maybe we can on one of those. Either the tomb. I mean, ogres aren't in there, but you're a tomb king, and you probably. It sounds like you know more than any of us. So we could probably.
I think she probably does.
Yeah, we could probably pull you on any of them, and you probably know more than us. So that's awesome. Cool. Okay. Well, if no one else has got anything to ask Paddy, I'll let her get going, and we'll see you on the next one. And if not, we'll see you in Canberra.
Yeah.
Cheers.
See you, mate.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, it's always good to have Paddy on, even though I feel like we've been talking to her, and obviously with you, Josh.
I know. Yeah.
It's not like we haven't been talking to her. So.
In numerous conversations by text, and yet last time I spoke to her,
was probably on
verbally.
the podcast.
I think it was on the podcast a few months ago.
Nah, it's good. I'm
funny.
pumped for CanCon. I reckon, it's going to be great.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I've never been, so I'm pretty, I'm very, very pumped, very stoked. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
Well, have either of you guys been to CanCon?
No. I go to CanCon, remember?
Oh, that's right. You went to CanCon.
Did you pop over? It wasn't anywhere. No, it was at Jolt, wasn't it? So, so you didn't actually go over to CanCon to look at the other stuff, or you just played?
It was just 2 bigger days.
Yeah.
I had to leave the next day. It was just
Fair enough.
Just timing.
Yeah. Oh, well, no, cool. Well, anyway, hopefully people enjoyed that at least. Even if obviously it's, we're Australia focused and that's Canberra, and we have got a lot of listeners who are not in Australia, but it's good to see there's different scenarios and
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's like we said in there, it's probably just everyone's getting ready for the old world, So I think everyone's getting excited. So it doesn't matter what version we're playing right now. So
nah.
Yeah. Cool. So we are going to do a faction focus thing in a minute, but before we get to that and what that is, had a little bit of follow on from last week, Josh. You wanted to have was this from thinking about what we talked about, and then did we miss some stuff, or what? I'll let you lead on this one.
I was thinking a bit, but also just some general feedback from some friends, I guess.
Yes.
Are
we in trouble?
Feedback.
Me, I'm in trouble. Mainly about skirmishes, I guess, because it's kind of like, I mean, I think I understand some of the feedback. So it was kind of like, because I was feeling like with skirmishes,
the 360
with the line of sight,
360
line of sight, I was like, oh, that's just too much kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's more because Pegasus Knights benefit from that so much.
Yeah.
That I felt like it was just like so powerful. What? How can skirmishes do this? But I think it's more because it's flying skirmishes that go anywhere, and they're actually like quite.
And they're
potent.
decent. Yeah,
they're actually really decent.
And they've got a good save and all that sort of stuff.
They're a good save, they're monstrous and all that kind of thing. Because I guess the thing in 8th edition with the skirmishes being they're essentially considered a block in loose formation.
Yeah.
Sort of just meant that they were just like a block, so they do lose a bit of identity in that regard, I guess.
Yeah.
And
what was the -1 extra to hit them? And that was
to shoot. It? Yeah, I think.
But they could never have ranks.
They couldn't have ranks. Yeah.
So
I think in 7th the rules were the same as 6th, but they could be march blocked. Which I think does help a bit in that regard. But yeah, I must admit, looking back on 8th, they do lose a little bit of uniqueness when they just 90 degrees line of sight just straight in the front. And it's also like, well, if they can only see 90 degrees in the front, what about single models on a foot? Like, do they still see around all the way around, or are they also like a monster basically?
Is that a six character? Wasn't there something where it's like you got a skirmisher unit, and then if your character's in there, it's 360, but then if they're all dead and the character's left, now he's doing a 90. Like, isn't there? Was that
in 6?
I don't know if it was in 6 or there was some weird thing I remember where it was like once the unit was dead, it was almost like the guy was less visible, like less sort of agile. I can't remember which one it was, but
I don't know. I mean, I guess that does pertain to like Great Eagles and that type of thing. That even though they're a flying unit that you could argue should be a skirmisher unit, they're just considered a single unit of
and
a monster.
They're less maneuverable than this.
And they
other
don't
unit.
have this other unit can actually see all around them, whereas the single Great Eagle can't. It's a bizarre weakness in the rules. What else?
You said something about terrain, so I wasn't sure what that one was.
Yeah, I forgot actually. I think that was to do with. What was that to do with? More to do with actually shooting in ranks, because it does help to have a heal.
Oh, you mean the 6th edition shooting in ranks? And you were saying that everyone should be able to do it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So it's like, I guess the one value of not being able to shoot in ranks is that you want to be able to use the heals to do that, I guess. I'm not sure if I'm on board with that necessarily, but it does add an extra level of sort of.
It's complexity, because you're trying to like then fit your war machines and your visibility and these units of archers on them, which is probably what they're saying, that's a good choice to have to make.
Yeah, exactly. That's like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's whereas if you can just shoot in 2 ranks for everything, it sort of makes it just easier thing to do, I guess.
Yeah,
I reckon it just changes up your terrain. Like, I think you find 6 boards that tend to have quite a few hills. I don't know. This is the way I look at them. Like,
yeah,
it's almost like you need a hill in your
deployment zone.
Deployment zone.
Because I always do that. But that's from old school, which is weird. But
I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't see too many random hills in the middle of the battlefield. Like they always tend to be.
Yeah.
We'll be nice and we'll put one in your deployment zone and one in my deployment zone or something like that. Like it's. I don't know. I prefer the that 2 rank shooting as well. Like a sort of
it is very constrictive.
Yeah. And it does allow you then to set up and do some different stuff. Whereas if sometimes you feel a bit like, I have to put my war machine there and I've got to put my archers up there or whatever, so there's no choice.
That's true. Like, and maybe, maybe that's what leads into people. When you're sitting up a table for 6th edition, you probably do tend to put down more hills because they are so important.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, we had a lot of good feedback on that episode, which has been really good. So I think people just like having that. And I saw there was a thread on Reddit today on the Warhammer channel, which was to do with, what do they want? What does people want to see in 8th that they want to keep or something? And I went, we actually talked a little bit about this in 6th edition. So I plugged us a bit. But I think people starting to, I think people obviously starting to, really get, especially because this rule thing came up today with hopefully this week we see the rules or some of the rules. I think more people are sort of going, I hope this is there and that's there. And this probably leads on to another comment that I think you put in, Josh, which was to do with what was it? I guess I'll let you talk about it.
This is more just a thought bubble. I was more intending to ask you guys really, is that because we've been playing a lot of 6th edition this year. Going into the old world, there'll be all the old units that we haven't seen. It's weird talking about this timeline wise, but these units have disappeared essentially because we went from 8th or 9th back into 6th. But they'll sort of pop up again, assumably. I'm sure they will.
They sort of made that comment. Something. What was it? That all models in 8th will be playable. Something? Did they say something like that? Yeah, they said something like that.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering what you got, which units you would either be anticipating using again or dreading seeing back on the table.
Well, I wrote some of mine, but they're all the same almost. But what about you, Andrew?
I haven't seen it being effective, but I like the Sky Cutter.
Oh yeah.
Such a good model.
Heaps of people have been wanting that model. Even so I've been hearing a lot of comments about that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think it wasn't that useful.
Yeah.
And then obviously a lot of people didn't buy it. Yeah, there's just those models that people just don't buy, and then later on they sort of become a bit of a collector's sort of item almost.
Yeah.
It's a shame they didn't. Is it? We say it's not useful. Is it because people didn't buy it because the rules in the game were not?
They just
that conducive to it.
They just got shot off.
Yeah, they just got shot. Yeah. It's kind of like a flying chariot that everyone can see, and it's not. It's not awesome in combat. It shoots a bit. It's not. Yeah. It wasn't like an auto include. It was just like a fluffy little side piece that you could bring along if you wanted. But a lot of people just didn't bring it.
Yeah, they needed to add more power creep to entice people to buy the model.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. There you go. So when you bring it back, just remember.
Oh dear.
Yeah. I mean, my ones were mainly, I put probably 2 specific ones, but I think at the end of the day, I like some of that monstrous cav. I think I said that ages ago. Like I just, but it's like this double-edged sword because how do you balance the whole thing? But I did like, I like bringing demigryphs and, obviously the Tomb Kings have 2 different types of ones. Even when I set up my demons there, I was like, which list could I put together for, 6th edition? I was like, well, there's no blood crushers in this edition. I don't think there was anyway. No, I don't think there's because they're monstrous cav. I don't think they're. I don't think that there's a hero on a blood, whatever it's called, the blood crusher, like the big thing, Juggernaut. You can do on juggernauts, but I don't know if there was actual blood crushers, at least for what I could see. Unless I was looking at the wrong thing. But yeah, so I think I'm excited to see some of that, but then I sort of do appreciate 6 instead of infantry and cav, and I'd hate cav just to get a massive nerf because the monstrous cav's better.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, I think that's a hard thing to have to balance, isn't it? Is that there is a lot more of a diversity of especially monstrous stuff going around.
Yeah.
And it's hard for some of the more mundane units to not be left behind in power level.
Yeah,
You know?
and that's things like the Arachnarok. They're either really good or really bad depending on comp and stuff. So it's they're cool figures and I want to use them, but again, just I think the orcs needed a bit. And if you do the monstrous cav thing, they don't have anything like that. That probably goes with trolls too. Like trolls were cool things. They're so orc and goblin-y, but I don't really think you saw a lot of trolls because they're just they're either stupid or just too easy to kill. So
the Arachnarok is a cool model. It'd be nice to see that back. I would say. Yeah,
agreed.
Cool.
Yeah. What about you, Josh? Did you have others that you?
Well, funnily enough, playing Bretonians meant that
we didn't have any.
There wasn't much new stuff coming through. In terms of like wood elves and that type of thing, it'd be. I don't know. I didn't mind playing with Sisters of the Thorn back when I was playing 8th.
Yeah.
I think that those are some cool models. The Wildwood Rangers are an interesting one as well, where I was listening to, I think it was a YouTube video that were talking about the old world, and they were like, I feel like that the Wildwood Rangers were a unit that got put in for Wood Elves because they needed a elite infantry block. Yeah, so they got the rules pretty much, and they put the models for that. And I do understand that, but at the same time, I actually really quite like those models, and they were
cool.
Yeah. And I wouldn't mind seeing them back.
Did you end up making? Because what were they dual kitted with? Was that Eternal Guard? No.
Yeah, Eternal Guard and Wildwood Rangers was the dual kit. I actually really like the 6th edition Eternal Guard models with the spears. Like the Eternal Guard dual part of that kit, I don't know, it looks a little bit more high elfy. Compared to most of the other Wood Elf units.
Yeah.
So I think I'm partial to the 6th Eternal Guard.
Yeah, they're pretty good models. The metal Eternal Guard. Oh, I'll rate them.
Yeah. They've really got that aesthetic that the rest of the army has.
Yeah, no, they're really, really nice.
But I was thinking with the Empire with the buff wagons like that, the Celestial Hurricaneum and all that. Now I should have checked this, but definitely in games, if you go look at Cities of Sigmar, those things are still there. So they're in the AOS, so you can buy. You can get the the Celestial Hurricaneum and the other one. Now I can't remember if the War Altar is listed there. But the War Altar is definitely shown in one of those pictures of the old world, but the other two aren't. The other two wouldn't be used. Well, they wouldn't be usable in their current form in the sense that there's no, colleges of magic. So I'm just trying to think. I should go look. Is the War Altar usable in AOS, or I wonder if there's a chance that those will split and some of them will just stay in AOS and and the War Altar will go back into old world, even though it's technically the same kit almost, just comes with a different thing on top. But I don't know.
Wonder if they might modify a bit of lore somewhere, or some rogue wizards out there have created this, before its time.
And the thing is, I liked about them, it's the gameplay, not so much what they actually did. But I like this, and this is where I hope the magic. I think I will like the magic if it goes this route a bit, where it's more positioning of something else which buffs something just in that area, and then you can, and that's what I liked about those Empire wagons. We can move them around, and eventually, if you needed to, you charge in, and you got to, it's still a chariot at the end of the day. So they're pretty useful. So you sort of don't get some of that in 6 as much, because it is just more, what you got. So,
well, I find JW lore, they just kind of do what they want sometimes. Like, it doesn't kind
Yeah.
of make sense. It's just like, oh, now this has happened, and they just make up this little side story on why that whatever's transpired, how it happened, and it kind of just that was like end times. Like, half of that didn't even make any sense. You're just like, what?
I was thinking of should I go back and when I downloaded the High Elf book off my iBooks thing, because I bought all of them on Apple.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I saw the end times there. I'm like, oh, should I get that out and read it again? But I remember it was so hard to get through some of it.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot going on.
Wasn't great fiction, really.
No.
Cool. Oh, well, anyway, is there anything else on that, Josh? That because you sort of were just mentioning some of those things. Was there anything that I missed?
No, not really. Just an interesting thing to think about.
Oh, cool. Well, like I said at the top of the show, we're going to do some faction focused stuff. So we thought today, just to wrap up the podcast, really, I guess, is to have a chat around High Elves, I think, Andrew, because obviously you're into them a bit and what they're up to in the old world. And then, I don't know, we'll randomise another one for the next couple of weeks and do another one.
Yeah, so I figured with this, I'll just go quick little recap on where they've come from to a certain degree, and then pretty much where they're going to be ending up during that period just prior to where we think the old world's going to be launching from.
Yep.
So, yeah, obviously, as everybody knows, the High Elves or the Asur, my American accent there, they're sort of like one of the older races in the world. Obviously, sort of magic, as everybody knows. At the start, they weren't very, when they came about, they weren't like a very warlike faction. That sort of happened later on. So yeah, it was the reign of Anarion was sort of the first Phoenix king. So basically, what's happened? The old ones in the old world, I suppose, they had these gates, these polar gates. As everybody knows, that's sort of like where the realms of chaos are now. And they used to use those for interstellar travel, or they went to other worlds and did what they did. So anyway, these things collapsed. These gates sort of collapsed, and a tide of magical energy just went around the world. Basically, that's what brought chaos into the world. So chaos demons just flooded the world from there. So basically, Anarion, who's just cruising around the world, he's sort of like, when this happened, he's like, oh crap, he's gone back to sort of face it and be the savior of his people. So he's basically come back to Ulthuan during the great time of need. He's gone to the shrine of Asuran. He's basically, you probably would have heard this, they stepped through the sacred fire. He's kind of like the first one that did it to become the Phoenix King.
Yeah.
So he sort of like pleaded to the gods, this and that, sacrificed himself for the greater good. And basically, when he's gone into the fire trying to sacrifice himself, he's come out as the first Phoenix King. So from there, he's basically become the ruler, started getting all the elves together. He's teamed up with the Kalidor Dragon Tamer, who's one of the great wizards, and basically they've got all the elves together and started, kicking the demons out of Ulthuan and, wherever else they are. So basically they started going into this 100-year war, and the elves are starting to lose, people, because there's obviously all this energy still keeps coming, all the demons still keep coming.
What's the 100-year war with? Is that chaos?
Yeah, against chaos. Yeah. So yeah, it was around 100 years or something. So they're going to war with chaos, and obviously, the elves, they're immortal, but they don't, obviously have huge amounts of offspring and whatnot. So they're slowly dwindling down. So that's where Kalidor's just come up with the idea of creating that, you would have heard, the Great Vortex. Obviously, to drain the magic from the world, and obviously, get rid of the chaos energies and whatnot. So Kalador's come up with that plan. Inarian opposed that. They're sort of, they're a bit to and fro. Inarian's wife and his child or whatever gets killed by demons, and he starts going a bit loopy, goes a bit rogue. So he's sort of like sworn he's going to like kill, all chaos and whatnot. So basically he's gone and he's got the sword of Cain, or he's gone to the altar of Cain or whatever, and he's got, they got the nasty sword, kind of makes you a bit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So he's grabbed that and he's basically out there, slaying demons and whatnot. So basically from there, he's gone with his own faction to a certain extent. So the elves are kind of split up. They're gone to where the dark elves sort of came from. So that Nagaroth, that's where he's hooked up with Barathi, the soon to be
Is that the mother of
the
the
mother,
mother
yeah.
of Malekith, eh?
Yeah, Malekith. So they have a son, Malekith. So obviously, you can see where this is going. So he's gone a little bit crazy. So they've all gone off to that side of the world, and obviously the followers that have gone with them are kind of not the nicest of the elves. And then you've got the more noble elves, I suppose, have stayed behind Ulthuan. So anyway, Kalador's got his bunch of mages together and he's gone to the Isle of the Dead to start this ritual. Basically, chaos rocked up, there's like, as it always goes, they're getting beaten back, and then, Inarian rocks up, there's a great battle, all the demons are there, like the 4 greater demons of the chaos, 4 greater gods, and, they finally, it's something like along the lines of, they've destroyed chaos. They've finally got the Great Vortex going, but to do it, it's kind of like sucked in all the mages. They're like stuck there for eternity or whatever, something like that. And then Anarian just he just sort of disappears. There's like a great earthquakes and tidal waves, and a lot of the world's destroyed at that point in time. So basically, once he rocks up, there was no Phoenix King, so all the princes get together. Barathi's out there, obviously trying to get Malekith on the throne, but there's like a council, and they choose what is it, Belshazzar? Yeah. So he's like, he was kind of like a good warrior, and like a good guy to a certain extent. Then Marathi sort of gets pissed off and goes back to Earlands. But Malekith, he sort of stays around, and he works with the new kings basically. So this is where the age of colonization and the golden age sort of kicks in. So chaos is gone, the elves sort of spread out, they start building up their power again.
Does that include the old world then as well? They're just everywhere.
They're all going into the old world. This is where they're trading with dwarves. That's the golden age effectively with the dwarves and the elves, where they're at the highest of their power. And then this is where chaos starts to seed itself in. So, as you probably would have heard, they get quite excessive in their lifestyles. And then now the cults of pleasure start sort of forming. And as Josh obviously knows,
with his Slannesh army.
Yeah, all Slannesh based and up to all naughty stuff. So they all go through this excessive time, and Nagaroth is sort of like the homeland of this excess, I suppose. So it's kind of everywhere, but that's like the epicenter. And then Marathi's sort of like this big leader within the cult. So anyway, basically Malakos sort of is tasked with going around to get rid of all these cults of pleasure. He ends up sort of like putting all these people in jail, including his own mum. So he puts his mum in jail, and basically he finds out. Well, this is the thing with the the end times. This is no end times literature here. The end times changes all of this, which is basically what I'm gonna say. So Malakos finds that the Phoenix King is actually a member of the cult of Slannesh, and is, corrupted by chaos. So he ends up like poisoning him, and basically people or the other elves that are left over, who aren't on his side, are like, oh, he's poisoned him, and then obviously it's kind of like he's saying no, he was corrupted by chaos.
So you're saying he was doing the right thing, but then he got accused.
Yeah. So he, in his mind, he was doing the right thing, but he was getting accused by the other elves of being, treacherous and a follower of chaos himself. So anyway, he's sort of got his followers together, and he's trapped a bunch of the high elf noblemen there, and he's gone through the sacred flames. But the sacred flames rejected him, and he got all burnt and basically thrown out the other end. So all his followers basically scooped him up. They killed everybody, and they've run off back to like Nagaroth, and obviously now he's
Nagaroth.
Nagaroth. Yeah. Now he's back with his mum, and they're all back there. Yeah. And then now he's questing to, in his own mind, come back because he's the rightful king. So there's the new Phoenix King, Calador, comes along. There's basically the war starts between the Dark Elves and
the High Elves.
The High Elves. There's basically they try and undo the spell for the Great Vortex. This creates a bit of a sundering. There's a bunch of and there's magic let off back into the world as well. So there's a lot more death, destruction. This happens quite a few times. So basically it kind of keeps going back. Like he invades Ulthuan. The War of the Beard starts as well. In all that, it's very back and forth with basically the Dark Elves and the High Elves, so they're pretty much at war, tit for tat, and it pretty much finishes the end of the War of the Beard. The king gets killed, the Phoenix King, and then the High Elves basically retreat back to Ulthuan.
So which Phoenix King is killed in the War of the Beard?
I think it's Calador.
Just the first one.
No.
Was it Calador the second?
I'm not sure.
One of them. I think there's two.
Yeah, I think there is two. Oh, there's Calador.
Oh, hang on. It must be Calador the second, because then this one says, "Thus began the War of the Beard."
Yeah. So yeah, Calador the second was cut down by King Gotrek. There you go. Reading that right there. And then they basically retreat back to the Ulthuan. Some elves said no, we're going to stay, and then they've obviously gone into
the Wood Elves.
Yeah, so Athel Lauren, they've gone into there. They've slowly become the Wood Elves. So yeah, there's a bit of a back and forth with the Dark Elves still, and it just keeps going, and pretty much ends up around about where the old world's going to begin. So basically, where's his name?
Bel Hathor. That's a few. That's
Yeah,
right
Bel
up there.
Hathor. There you go.
So there's obviously a few Phoenix Kings in between then, but they're not. Yeah, they're just fighting dark elves
nothing.
and all that sort of
It's
stuff.
dark elves and them. It just goes back and forth. It's quite So basically, Bel Hathor is chosen to go out and explore after they've rescinded so much. So after the War of the Beard, they're at war with the Dark Elves, and they've obviously had Norse raids, so they've just come back to protect Ulthuan. And now this is where they're like, all right, we're going to start to obviously go out. They discover these other races, men who they thought were quite primitive, and they're like, oh, hang on, they've gone to Britannia, they've gone to the Empire. They're like, well, these guys are actually not quite primitive, they're quite strong. And then that's when they started building trade, and they're like, well, this is where we need to build ourselves back up and get alliances.
Yeah.
So they've reintroduced themselves to the world. So yeah, that was basically that's Finubar. It was the guy who's gone off and traveled the world and met all these races. So yeah, that's pretty much up to the point. They've met the Wood Elves, but they're not very good. They just don't. The Wood Elves don't trust the High Elves. The Wood Elves have gone and basically almost rejected the High Elves coming. So they're just very wary of them. Same with Dwarves at this point. So High Elves and it's quite frosty. Both empires are pretty much they obliterated each other. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at within the scheme of the old world. Was
so it's the reign of Finubar for sure, isn't it?
Yeah, his is explored. He's made these alliances. They've made contact with the Bretonnians, the Empire. They've allowed these races into Ulthuan to trade, and obviously they've shared some secrets here and there. So yeah, it's a pretty good point, I think. There's not a lot going on during this time, and I feel like there's scope within the old world to create some of these
storylines. I did find one storyline, and it's in the 8th edition book, which is 20 years before the Great Chaos Incursion, called A Short-Lived Alliance. Did you read that one?
No, not that one, no.
Yeah, so this one is, and the reason why I bring this up is it's it's basically an alliance between High Elves and Dwarves at Barak Var to scour the greenskins of War Gutripper from the shores of the Black Gulf, which is obviously right at the border princes there.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that storyline might get expanded on, because there's a Sea Lord Aislan aided King Grundadrak of Barak Var. That's all it sort of says. And then 20 years later is the Great Chaos Incursion. So I'm just wondering if there's some, I'm not sure, but that might be a little bit of a tidbit that they might expand some things off that one. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem too exciting, but Dwarves and High Elves working together in the Border Princes. That's where the old world is. Well, that's where the game's set to start. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, it's sort of it'll be pretty interesting. I definitely think there's a lot of scope within that period. Like they've said, there's not a whole lot of lore going on.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a blank canvas.
Yeah, I think you're right though, isn't it? Like they picked this time where they're like, well, at the end, even if it's only 20 years, it's still a lot of time. Technically, they can have a lot of storylines. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. So, but there's not. Is there anything like the Empire's got that definite thing around there's no colleges of magic yet and stuff like that. I guess the High Elves are so long lived that I don't foresee them being much different.
Nah, I don't think there's too much during that period. Ross, like yeah, like for the dwarves and stuff, obviously during the War of the Beard they were quite specific. Like they didn't have black powder at that point.
Yeah.
Whereas High Elves don't really seem to have that technology. Like, you know.
Yeah. Well,
they
they've
didn't
always
have,
had it if they have, like they've had it probably
Yeah.
for ages. Yeah.
Well, they didn't have a lot of magic at the start. They had magic, but obviously when magic came into the world, they were introduced to high levels of magic, and that's where the first Kalador sort of taught them spells and defensive spells and attacking spells.
Yeah.
So that's when they sort of became fighting because they had to. And then it doesn't seem like they've changed a hell of a lot since like the beginning, like almost that first war with Chaos. It's almost like all their powers that they had then, they're going to be bringing into the old world.
Yeah, that's the thing. And then when you look at one of these timelines in 8th, it's like if you go back a few hundred years, I think it's a few hundred. Maybe it's not even that, actually. It might only be... There was another thing called Slaughter at Bleak Meadow, which was a alliance between High Elves, Athel Loren, and to go against Beastmen. So I thought that one might be something that might be interesting, where you're mixing all three of those factions. So maybe there's some storylines there, but it's a little bit... Again, it depends where they set this old world. I'm not sure is it 20 years before the Chaos, Great War against Chaos? Is it 100? Is it? I mean,
yeah,
it's a bit hard. I think we just lost Josh because batteries ran out or something.
Oh yeah,
I think
I saw
he's
that.
playing with his headphones. All good. We'll probably wrap up this soon anyway, so that's all good. But yeah, I don't know. They're a hard one to pick, these High Elves, because I just, like I said, I feel like they're the same, or they've fought Dark Elves, or they've been in fighting with Chaos demons, which are not in the old world storyline, at least at the moment. So I feel like they're going to be almost supporting characters around some of these other old world things around the Border Princess, or like that potential, Beastman rampages into Athel Loren, those types of stories.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's going to be anything new as such, other than maybe some lesser characters, rather than like, not lesser, but not these epic, Tyrion sort of.
Yeah, and they got the same characters too. Yeah, like I said, they got the same Phoenix King. From what we would have seen in 8th, wouldn't we? Because was he still there till then? Yeah, I think he was, wasn't he?
Oh, the model.
Oh no, just that mate Finnabar or whatever. Finnabar, he's the same Phoenix King all the way to the current time, so isn't he? To the end times.
I believe so.
So yeah, I guess it's probably a faction that we'll recognise pretty well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't expect them to be too much different. Might be wrong, but who knows?
Did they have any Lothan Sky Cutters back then?
I haven't looked at the lore of the Lothan Sky Cutter.
Yeah, I don't know when the Sky Cutter come into it.
Who knows?
Well, they would have to, because it was in 8th edition, and if they're releasing every model, then
it might not be in the
rules.
Lore, though.
It might not be in the lore. Yeah. Could be some rogue High Elves out there, testing the waters of hawk-drawn sky.
It just says Sky Cutters also serve as the outriders of Lothan's armies. It doesn't really say much. Anyway, not sure. Okay.
I've got an 8th edition High Elf book. I've only got a 6th, so they didn't have a Sky Cutter in there.
No.
So
okay.
I'm not too sure of the lore.
Oh, so you bought that High Elf army and you didn't actually ever use it for 8th?
I was playing 9th. I got it for 9th age.
Oh, right.
Right. Okay.
And then I got my 6th book. So yeah. 8th I've only had dwarves and vampires.
Oh, okay. Right, yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense. Yeah, I've been trying to get 8th edition books, and the High Elf one's quite pricey, so I haven't found good. I was thinking of putting something up on like Legion's just the local Facebook groups from our local ones, and say, surely there's players around that just aren't even interested
people
anymore.
Just hoard stuff. Like, you'd have people hoarding it that have no purpose for it.
Yeah. Anyway, have you got any thoughts, Josh? I know you dropped out there for a bit on what the High Elves are doing, but I mean,
not really. I
No.
I dropped out completely for a while. So that's the time they do have settlements, don't they? Like along the
like little
coast?
trading posts. So yeah, they've made contact with basically everybody on that west coast of the old world. So like Bretonnians and the Empire border princes, they've made contact with the Wood Elves, but the Wood Elves weren't very trusting of them, obviously, because they just ditched them thousands of years before and just said no, we're leaving.
they're stuck up anyway, bloody High Elves. But
Yeah. So, yeah, they're sort of they're there in the old world, but obviously, that most of the kingdom is still on Ulthuan.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Well,
it's they're going to be an interesting one. They're like the Tomb Kings, eh? It's like, what are you guys doing over here in this story? We'll just find out, I guess, but we'll see what they.
I feel like the Tomb King's going to be jammed into the central part of the story somehow.
Yeah.
It sounds like such an
entire old
invasion
world.
to pick some stuff back up or something. But
Yeah.
like
like
the shopping.
Britannia down to it's quite opposite, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Someone's got to move closer to the other somehow, and I imagine it's because the title is the old world. I feel like Bretonia's going to stay where it is, and Tomb Kings are going to be heading up north.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting
crusade,
to see.
I guess.
Yeah, it'll be cool the way that I'm interested to see like how they're going to spin these stories. So it'll be good.
Yeah, a bit more lore is always good, and they're probably getting better at it. I think so they're getting better, I think, at continuing the storylines a bit with AOS and 40K, in terms of making them sort of moving. So it'll be interesting to see if they do something like that for the old world, even though you've got a final. If it's not the Great War against Chaos as a sort of final destination, you've also obviously got the end times as a definite final destination. So it'd be interesting to see, if they do progress it like that, or is it more, like Horus Heresy, they're probably not progressing it. They're just going, this is what it is, play in that era. So who knows? Anyway, this one's getting on, so I might. Have you guys got anything else to chat about? Otherwise, I might wrap this one up. And
we've covered everything we want to.
Yeah.
So I didn't do a shout out, so I've got no listener questions. I'll get them next week. I just will say one big thank you though. We hit 2,000 downloads today, which is cool. So yeah, it's been really good, and 400. Pushing 450 Instagram followers after my blitzkrieg last week trying to get some. So it seems like, if you guys are on Instagram or anything like that, definitely reach out to us on Old World Fanatics, plus all the other socials, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed our episode on Cancon and Old World and just general rules chat like we do. We obviously love doing it. That's why we're here every Monday. And really appreciate any 5-star ratings you can give us, because obviously it helps. It's spreading it out. I can feel that we're spreading out as we're getting closer to the Old World release. So we'll keep bringing the content if people keep listening. And even if they're not, we'll probably keep bringing it anyway. So thanks, guys. You got anything else? Otherwise, I'll let you guys get to bed on your Monday night.
I'm good. Ciao.
Cheers.
Good, Colin. Thanks for
See you, mate. Bye. It's Josh's favorite part.
Now I don't have to listen to the episode tomorrow.